Subtracting fractions with different denominators. Let's look at the example. Phil was told to remove 1/4 inch from a 5/8 inch bolt. What did the bolt measure after 1/4 inch was removed? Again, we look at the diagram. In this first rectangle, we have 5 out of 8 shaded in, so that's 5/8. In this rectangle, we have 1 out of 4 parts shaded, that's 1/4. We need to have common denominators, which means both of these rectangles have to be divided into the same number of equal parts. If we take a line down the middle, we have now made the fourths into eighths. And down below, you see the 5/8 repeated, and the 1/4 is now 2/8. If I take these 2/8 away from the 5/8, I will be left with 3/8. Shown here, we have our 5/8. We want to take 2/8 away. We are left with 3/8. Mathematically, we're starting off with 5/8. We want to subtract 1/4. We need the common denominator. Since 4 divides into 8 evenly, we can use 8 as our common denominator. Remember, that means each rectangle has to be divided into the same amount of parts. How do I make a 4 into an 8? I multiply it by 2. Whatever I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. That's where the 2/8 comes from. 5/8 is already 8. I can multiply them both by 1 to keep it 5/8. I now subtract 5/8 minus the 2/8, remembering I subtract my numerators. Leave the denominator the same, since we're talking about parts of the same whole. 3/8 cannot be simplified, so this is our final answer. Let's look at our second example, 24 7/8 minus 12 1/3. We first notice that we do not have common denominators. We need to have those. I'm going to look at the two denominators and choose the larger one, which is 8. I'm now going to go back to those multiplication tables that I have memorized. 8 times 1 equals 8. I have to say to myself, can 3 be divided into 8 evenly? Since the answer is no, I'm not going to use 8 as a common denominator. 8 times 2 is 16. Does 3 divide into 16 evenly? Again, the answer is no, so we cannot use 16. 8 times 3 equals 24. Can 3 be divided into 24 evenly? Yes, so we have found our common denominator. So we know that we're going to need 24 as our common denominator. What do we multiply 8 by to get 24? 3. And whatever we do to the denominator, we must do to the numerator. In this fraction, 3 times 8 is 24. Whatever we do to the denominator, we must do to the numerator. We get 8/24. The whole numbers get to come over all by themselves. So 24 7/8 is the same or equivalent to 24 and 21/24. 12 1/3 is equivalent to 12 and 8/24. We can now subtract. 21 minus 8 is 13. Leave that denominator the same. The whole numbers get subtracted as regular numbers. 24 minus 12 is 12. Always check to see if your answer can be simplified. Since there is no common factor for 13 and 24, 12 and 13/24 is our final answer.
Suppose a foreman hands you this bolt, which measures 5/16 in diameter and is 1½ inches long, and he asks you to cut off 3/8 of an inch off because he needs a shorter bolt. How long should that bolt measure after you cut it off? Let's figure the length of the bolt. The bolt is 1½ inches long, and we're going to cut off 3/8 of an inch. So it's minus 3/8. Now, when you know your fractions, this will do in your head, but we want to do it on the board so you know what you have to do to get the proper answer. So now we've got to get a common denominator for both of these fractions, and that would be 8 since 2 goes into 8. So that's times 1 equals 8 times 1 equals 3. And 8 over there, how many 2's go into 8? Goes 4, so it times 4 equals 8 times 4, 4/8. Now we want to deduct 3/8 from 4/8, and that would be 1/8. And 1 from 0 is 1, so the answer is 1 1/8 inches long. That's what the bolt should be. And we'll stick it in the vise. Tighten it. Now I'm going to use this hacksaw and cut this bolt off. When it comes to the end, you do it softly, so and as you can see, if it's cut properly, it should measure 1 1/8 inches.
Please pause the video now and complete the problems in your workbook. When finished, press play, and we'll continue with the next lesson.